and welcome again to another episode of Every Second Counts podcast with Tom and Matt. For now, it's just Tom and France. So on this episode, I got my buddy France Mahabub, the creator, the CEO, the chairman of the board of Atlas Rising Initiative, and it's a mental health program. There's a lot I want to get in with him. I don't want to just throw too much out there about how he wants to put it and the message he's trying to get out. But today's show, we're going to discuss men's health. We're going to discuss first responders. We're going to discuss ways of veterans finding healing ways so we don't get caught too much in the matrix of the everyday problems. So, without any further ado, my man France, welcome to the show, brother.
Appreciate you having me on the show, brother. I definitely appreciate the intro and everything like that, and everything you're doing for mental health as well.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, I feel it's something you either have a purpose or a passion that turns into a purpose, and I think well, once you leapfrog, like we was in the Marine Corps, once you leapfrog, you have to fall into something, and when life changes and dictates so fast, when you find that purpose and that that path you're gonna take, it just becomes easy. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny you should like open up with purpose because that was like my biggest thing. It's I got stuck in such a rut. I think I was like more angry than anything that like seeing my buddies go through all this stuff and it's like nothing I can do and eventually kind of clicked. The light bulb went off in my head and I was like, you know what? That's my purpose now. My purpose
Mhm.
is to give them a voice because you know how we are as men and Marines, like we don't want to talk about that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more because I think when it takes time once you get out to bring those walls down a little bit just for yourself. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because I realize this now, it's so easy to shit on yourself. It's so easy to be in your own head and only see your flaws or mistakes or, like you said, things, buddies that aren't here no more, or maybe missing parts of the Marine Corps that you felt whole. You know what I mean? And when you miss that opportunity, it kind of just leaves you that isolation and alone safe place.
yeah, absolutely, and yeah, the whole like transitioning out process and all that stuff. As you know, you just transitioned out as well. They kind of high five you out and
Mhm.
yeah, give you your paperwork and good luck with the VA and all that stuff. And I was lucky enough to get ahead of the process, and it took me about 2 years to actually get retired because I was going through a medical retirement process. And I know a lot of guys that aren't that fortunate, you know,
Mhm.
especially my peer group that got out after the first 4 years. This was back in like '08 after when they got out, and there was the Steps and Taps program. It was nothing. It was like, here's how you write a resume, and it's like a 15-page resume.
Mhm.
So and like they didn't teach you anything about like interviewing and all that stuff, and that's like one of the biggest stressors that I want to highlight and educate service members, veterans, their families, and all that stuff on is like, hey, these things are out there, they're available to you. Most of them are free, and there's people just itching to help.
Yeah, I think, I was talking to someone about that the other day, and I think that's the most surprising thing. There's so many nonprofits out there. There's so much out there for veterans. So when you get involved in it and then you see it, it's like, all this was already here? I didn't even know this was all here. And then it's kind of standoffish because then I see it and I'm like, I can go ride horses. I could
Yep.
go I can go fishing, I can do this, but then at the same point, I'm like, but that's not for me. That's for someone that really needs it. You know what I mean? But at the same rate, I'm like, I wanna go do that. That's a mind, anxiety, depression reliever, and so I think that's the weird thing, seeing it, and then I deal with it, not feeling fortunate enough to do I have to go ride horses? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny you should bring that up. That's like, I know I've spoken about it multiple times on a few other podcasts that I was on, and it like I have imposter syndrome, right? Just like you have imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
And I like to bring up the story of, why my imposter syndrome is so bad. And um, so we get back from deployment, 2012, just got back from Afghan, and we're all on the grinder battalion formation. There's 37 of us getting Purple Hearts. I'm standing next to my captain. He's getting the same medal pinned on his chest as I am, but he lost a leg. Like he stepped on an IED and lost a leg. And here I
Mhm.
am. I was like, all right, I got my bell rocked. I got my face all like busted up and whatever. But this dude lost a leg, and we rate the same thing. Like, and to your point, it's like, I don't think I deserve it. And I don't think I deserve that kind of therapy and all that stuff that's available to veterans like that. But at the same time, like your trauma is your trauma. What you're going through is what you're going through. Um, you're the one that when you wake up in the morning, you're not seeing everyone else in that mirror. You're seeing you. So you got to be the one to be like, hey, you know what? If doing equine therapy is going to help me, I'm gonna do it. If going on a hunting trip with Wounded Warrior is gonna help me, I'm gonna do it. And I got invited to, not Wounded Warrior specifically, but I got invited to a few hunting trips, and I know specifically that it's for guys with Purple Hearts. And just looking at the website and all that stuff, like I'm the only one that's going to be there that's intact, and I'm like I can't do that. I'm not going to take a spot away from someone else. Um, but where I'm at right now, it's like if it helps you get better, it helps you grow and all that stuff, you need to put that stuff aside, that mentality aside, and go do it.
You know what? And I think that's the biggest problem because I dealt with that, in the before I started anything or the podcast or thought about coming out with the app and all this other stuff. I was like, this is important, but I became an advocate for Mission 22.
Yeah.
And I was reading up on it, and then they have the recovery resiliency program, and I had a coach through there. I went and did jujitsu for 6 months, like, it's a 6 months program, and then you have counseling every week, and you read different books, and it was something I didn't wanna do, but in my I guess you could say, in my selfish attempt, I was like, I don't wanna be an advocate for something I don't like. Of course, it's for veterans, I'm all about it, you know what I mean? But if I can't talk about it,
Exactly.
how you gonna advocate for it if you didn't even do it? So I was like, "Bet." Went through it, put the application in, and I think that's what let me open up more. That's what gave me the courage because now I'm talking to a therapist, and this dude was cool as a fan. We used the goods. You know what I'm saying? Like, he
Yeah.
was like, and I was just me. Like, we was just talking, and we got cool, and he never mentioned no one's name or anything, but, like, he talks to a bunch of veterans
Hmm.
because they're all, subcontracting out. And this dude talks like he had the guy for, like, the 2nd or 3rd time of this program, and he's never talked about anything. Nothing.
Yeah.
And that hit me in the face so hard. Like, there's a box, he puts all his shit in a box, and he's not talking about what's in the box.
Yep.
Life is good, but he's not gonna talk about it, you know what I mean?
No,
But
absolutely.
so when he got on that call, and then it was like, "You know what?" Kinda like what you said that started this, I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna go through with it, read the books, learn," and I started doing things myself, and by no means am I, educated in what everything we run our mouths about, but we are subject matter experts in this. What works for me might not work for you, but you know what? I know someone that might be able to help you doing this.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
and it all starts with a conversation. Change starts with a conversation. Like you said, you used the analogy, everything's in a box. What's in the box? What's that movie, Seven? Um,
mhm,
yeah, I use that analogy all the time. I'm like, hey, we put stuff in our box. Let's talk military terms. We put all our stuff in a shadow box on display for no one to see, all our trauma and all that stuff. And guys like you and I that actually want to advocate for stuff, we have to be the ones that need to set the example. Like you mentioned therapy. I've been in therapy for serious therapy for the last 3 years. I did like an 8 week program and all that stuff. But before, the therapy I was in was kind of like touching wave tops because I really didn't want to talk about like what was really going on
mhm,
because there was such a stigma behind it. And especially like being in the military, being senior enlisted in a leadership position, like you can't just be like, hey boys, I can't be here for an hour every Thursday because I'm gonna go seek therapy. You're gonna feel that guilt for that entire hour you're away taking care of yourself where you should be taking care of your boys.
and you know that shit spreads like wildfire. Like, we had a
Yeah, I
I
know.
know I know, being on recurrent duty for a while and then being in the command group, excuse me, when you have someone that deals with alcoholism or they catch that DUI, you know, maybe they have to go to a clinic for a little bit. You don't care anymore about the incident or whatever once that guy's in the clinic. Then it becomes shielding it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because no one wants no one to get in trouble, but everyone wants, you have rules, but no one wants to make someone look bad because the question always becomes, well, why was he drinking? Why was he drinking so much? But that's a question that no one ever gets down to.
yeah, yeah,
We push it off, or leadership pushes it off. Know why? I
they will.
feel every person has to answer to somebody, and no one wants to be in a position to have to answer to a failure that could be put on them, but that's not realistic.
Yeah,
I mean, if you ain't never got yelled at for someone else in the Marine Corps, you weren't in the Marine Corps. If
yeah,
you didn't get yelled at for someone else, you know what I mean?
yeah. You're
So,
not doing your job as a leader.
yeah, if you didn't get yelled at for someone else, "Oh, your guy got a DUI? What happened?" "Well, I don't know, Master Guns. He was at the same safety brief I was with you." You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
were all at the same safety brief. So I think that's that's a big problem, but I wanna ask you this, why don't you think more veterans care?
we care about what specifically?
Because I think about this a lot. When I mean care, I don't mean it negatively, but you you become fortunate enough to retire from the military.
Yeah,
Why do certain people, myself, yourself, people we know, they venture into this world of advocating suicide prevention, advocating mental health, advocating men's mental health, advocating, you know, and everything that especially you and me, we amplified and pushed towards the public. You know what I mean? And then it's so hard now to where I see people that I worked with or retired with, and they are so far from the Marine Corps, but I don't look at them like, does that make sense? It's like, why, if more, I feel, because I'm biased to it, if more veterans looked out for more veterans, we wouldn't have these problems.
yeah. So it's the veteran community. Unfortunately, it's I found it to be a very toxic environment, right? Because as soon as you take that uniform off, you're not wearing those rank on your collar, your freaking sleeves and stuff anymore. You lost all your power. The only power you have is making people feel smaller than they are. So when a
Mhm.
guy like myself, for you, we get out there and we advocate and we're like, hey, it's okay. I went through this stuff. You're going through something similar. This worked for me. It may not work for you. Then you'll have those guys like that. And most of them, when they're in, they were toxic leaders or they were just shitbags, right?
Oh,
Uh,
no, 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 for real, and they're the ones that they watch.
yeah, and they're the ones that watch and listen and listen. But the minute you say something that they don't agree with, they'll come at you and be like, "Oh well, I was in the initial invasion of Fallujah." Blah blah blah. I'm sorry, I'm not freaking. I wasn't born 2 years earlier. You know,
Yeah,
like
I think that's a big problem, and I think it's actually getting fixed more and more that, I think it's with the whole United States mental health problem, so where it's becoming more and more easy, but not more welcoming. So if you're gonna talk about it, like your own issues, your own problems, what you deal with, it's easier for you, but it's far and in between. You know what I mean? That
yeah,
stigma of if I'm dealing with my depression and anxiety, my, um, sleep apnea, everything that there's one label, but how you deal with it and how you cope with it is completely different. So when they say, "Stop the stigma," but if you have depression, that can mean a billion different things. And I think, it all gets thrown into one pot, and it's hard to spread the word in a sense for someone to receive it, to be able to,
that's it. Yep.
break it down because it's like you said, it's easier. More people can talk about it, they can relate to it, but it's it's still I feel the people that are if you're still in, you can't understand it because you still have that wall, that
Yeah,
service wall around you.
yeah. You're in your bubble. Yeah, and you brought up a good point saying that in today's society, mental health is viewed differently, but it's not taken in the way it should be because I love buzzwords, right? I love when people use buzzwords to get attention. They're like, "Oh, break the stigma, mental health matters, this, and this." And I just got done with my first semester of school, and for my communications class, I did my entire thesis for the semester on men's mental health specifically, right? And we had discussion boards and all that stuff. And then, of course, like there's people in the discussion board like responding to my subject and my thesis and the way it was worded. And they're like, oh, why not mental health as a whole? I was like, thanks for proving my point. I'm talking about something that's near and dear to my heart. It is mental health as a whole, but I want to highlight a specific community, you know?
Oh,
Um,
no, no, I agree completely, go
So
ahead.
yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons why, because like we have the resources, not only on the veteran side, but first responder side, the civilian side, we have the resources out there, but no one wants to actually take advantage of it because it's so stigmatized. It's like a CEO of Fortune 500 company goes to therapy and everyone finds out, like, how much trust and confidence they're going to lose in that CEO.
Mhm.
So
No, but I like how you put that because that's that woke agenda, and, I don't really get into politics much openly, but if the biggest problem in the active duty, you got the rape, female rape, you always got the female problem, sexual harassment, then you have, just the mental health overall of just the regular military, but they're always trying to add more and more. You see, you could deal with what's going on worldly, but I don't know how if I don't know how I would be able to survive now in the Marine Corps, how things have become, policies changing, stigmas, like you will interview Like, imagine your RSCO is like, "No, you will interview transgenders."
Yeah.
And I couldn't give a shit either or, but it's like, huh? I can't even like, I knew if I was interviewing a kid if he couldn't do pull-ups or not. You know what
No.
I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so it's like, how am I how what are we doing here? So, you put especially I think the biggest thing that's slept on is all the duties, no matter what your occupation was in the Marine Corps, because I think recruiting duty, if there's not more suicides that you don't hear about, because just the stress level alone, when I look back, and it's like, if you want it's just it could do something to somebody if you're not already hardened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have
Yeah.
to go out there with thick skin anyway. 'Cause I remember we always had a couple incidents of new recruiters, and when you got hit in the face with reality, like, no, they don't want you. They
Yep.
don't want you to come here. Like, imagine how raw that is, and people I tell this some people, because people have that stigma too. Everyone loves the Marine Corps. Not when you're on recruiting duty, not when you call their house.
Nope,
Like, I was
absolutely
in I
not.
was in Philly. I called a guy, his dad was I called the dad picked up, he was in the Marine Corps, old school Beirut Marine. He wanted his son to join, his son wanted to be a '03. His dad said, "No, I want him to be, like, aviation mechanic."
Yeah.
Now I'm telling the dad on, "You gotta let him be infantry." Like, it was the most bizarre conversation. I'm like, "We're in Philly, but no one wants anyone to join." And
Yeah.
it's so easy to just look at the military and say, this, and this, but you're just supposed to take it, smile, and keep it moving. And I think it's harder for a newer generation, especially if you joined in the last 20 years and you deployed and you deployed and you did 2, 3, 4 deployments, and now you making phone calls. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you talk about imposter syndrome, I think that's the hardest thing to be able to cope with dealing with all these different things, as well as trying to do your job as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, with recruiting duty is it'll expose you. Like you go there, you'd show up squared away, racked from freaking hell, all the awards and all that stuff. But the minute you get humbled on the phone by a 17-year-old kid, you're just like, okay, what? Like I just got back from deployment. I was in charge of 32 Marines, and my AO was the size of New York City, right? And I did that for 7 months. Now this not a 17-year-old kid isn't like, no, and hang up. Like, okay. Um, but luckily, I've been through harder stuff than that. But who really gets humbled is the guys that, they've never deployed. They've got like a cushy little job in the Marine Corps, pretty much like a 9 to 5 schedule. And then when you tell them as a station commander, like, hey, we're working on Saturday, working on Sunday. Oh, by the way, you're gonna go home at 8:30, maybe 9 every Wednesday because we're doing PT in the evenings. And they're like, wait, no, I'm not used to that. I'm like, hey, you got 36 months, get used to it type deal.
Yeah, tell your spouse and kids, "I'll see you in 3 years."
and
And
it,
I just couldn't imagine. I think you become numb to it.
yeah,
Like the weak recruiters, everyone just becomes weak to you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
because you become hardened.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's
It's a
I had quite a few recruiters that like when they got to me, like I just looked at them up and down, like, yeah, you're gonna be a pain in the ass. And then I had a few recruiters that like I thought that, and they surprised the hell out of me, And it's just about getting used to it, getting numb to the fact that hey, I'm not in a 9 to 5 situation in the Marine Corps anymore. I'm at the mercy of essentially a 17-year-old kid and their parents on when I go
yeah,
home.
Absolutely, and I think that's the most, like you said earlier, that's a humbling thing. When the conversation is, "What do you got for tomorrow?" And you just see that guy
Yes.
walk away. Like,
Yeah.
"Alright, I guess we're still here."
Yeah.
But how was it for you, though? Coming from your deployments, coming from the ground side, and then now you're on recruiting duty.
So my mentality was always like, I can be getting shot at right now, or I could have, ran over another IED or something like that, and at least I get to go home to my family every night while on recruiting duty. It may be at weird hours at night, and I might have to, which I did quite often, wake up before they wake up and leave to go to work.
Mhm,
But at least I get to come home every night. I don't have to worry about like the deployment stuff. I don't have to worry about, hey, a 7 month workup, 7 months in the field, then 7 month deployment, come back for a week, get a month of leave, cycle starts over again. So that was my mentality. That's kind of what kept me from losing my mind. Um, and I was lucky enough to where I was put in a leadership position early on because I was at the PCS, so I was in a one man fighting hull, and my station commander, he was kind of like non-existent. He was like, here's your book of business, see ya, right? And I was like, okay, cool, alone and unafraid. And then
mhm.
I took over a station like at my 9 month mark on recruiting duty, and that was like my purpose at the time. My purpose was like, okay, taking over a failing station, the station's gonna win, and we ended up getting station of the year that year. So, and I got hooked. I got hooked on the success, not for me, but for my recruiters. Got a bunch of Marines meritoriously promoted. All of them left with end of tour awards, all that stuff.
No, no, I think I believe that even better. I did my 3 years after 16 months as a recruiter, I became, staff NCOIC. Almost became a 12 the first time, but I went back to the fleet, but it's like heroin. You itch for it.
Yep, you're
Like,
back.
and I was in the wing and I was non-deploying and I was just like, this is like when you have a schedule in the fleet, like when you have no schedule in the fleet as a staff NCO, like I didn't know what to expect. And it was the most boringest shit ever because like
Yep.
I could run in the morning, I could go to chow, I could go work out and I'm just looking at these young Marines and I'm like, I just want to yell at you constantly. Like, like, because I just like I was I was a staff sergeant, I had 2 gunnies working for me. As a brand new staff in CYC, so it was like you said, once you get bit, I think that's it. It becomes my mentality going on recruiting was, I can't fail. There's no failure. So that became my leverage. I had a fear of failing.
Yep.
So you had to grind. I hate talking to people. I hate talking to people now. I don't think I ever did like talking to people, but when it was game time and it was time to talk to people,
Oh yeah.
just their story, just everything working and just building relationships and doing certain things. It wasn't until I started, like you said, making when you start making other recruiters successful, when you start seeing them, then it's like, all right, I want to do more. I want
Yeah.
to make more guys successful because I'm directly responsible for it. A-
Absolutely.
And I think I know I was bad at it. This is probably the first time I'll say it publicly, but I know I could look back now and say, you know what, I was bad. I could have been nicer. I could have been, but how I came up, that wasn't the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think you could look back, but that's the benefit. That's the benefit because I could look back and see where things changed, where you start getting that, that's your problem
Yeah.
mentality. So you start thinking and you're like, "You know what? I need to be able to see it myself." So you retire. Why start this nonprofit?
So I've always, even when I was in the Marine Corps, right? I always wanted to be a part of something once I got out that would help veterans. And I always thought that, I would go volunteer at a VSO or, be affiliated with the Wounded Warrior Project and all that, just to kind of like help veterans out. And then just as I grew up and got a little more mature and all that stuff, I'm like, I started doing research. I was like, I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. And then the pandemic hit. Lost my brother, who was also a Marine, to suicide, and then that's when it clicked. I was like, I can't be just a part of another organization. I need to do this on my own. I need to start my own thing, be able to tell my story, my brother's story, and my other brothers that I served with, give them a platform, give them a voice, because they don't want to talk about it. But if I'm talking, they're listening and they're living through me, then that's the purpose. That's my purpose now, and that's why I started it.
I mean, that's enough motivating purpose. But one thing I do find fascinating is you're a single dad.
Yep.
And I think when you look at it like that, it's a big difference because some people, it's hard to take care of themselves. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Have a pet maybe. And you have a great relationship with your kids. And and
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
Appreciate
you
that.
are a driving example.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. It's funny you should bring that up. Um, One of my mentors from Hawaii, we keep in contact online and all that stuff. Dude's a freaking badass, right? Bronze Star from Fallujah. Now he's a captain and all that stuff. Every once in a while, he'll hit me up and like, hey, like you're doing an awesome job. And it just so happens that every time he hits me up is when I need to hear it. He's
Mhm.
like, I don't know how you do it. I was like, I don't have a choice not to do it. I'm all these kids got, like, yes, they have their support system and all that stuff, but I'm the only parent they have. And on top of that, I'm the father figure, so I don't have an option to fail. So,
Yeah, I think that's the best mentality you can have because you see, because I wanted to say something cool like, yeah, I have that mentality too. But but what you're doing is what you said was so perfect. I didn't have a choice.
yep.
And that's how I feel, like doing this as well. And that's why I ask stupid questions like, why isn't everyone involved? Why don't more people wanna stop it? Like, it's this big outcry of I mean, I look at it differently, but I think there's 2 separate kind of mental health breakdowns going down right now. You have people that lose their mind because their Wi-Fi went out or it's something on social media that obviously it's in their view and it's in their life, but we're more mature and I think it's thrown in the same thing. Like someone that had some kind of trauma that's some veteran that's suffering right now, no one cares about that veteran.
Yeah.
They care about the girl that couldn't get on Wi-Fi. If a veteran sat there, except for the guy that guy that shared that video that where they kept changing his VA appointment and he was crying in the van, unless you go viral with something like that, the girl crying she couldn't get on Wi-Fi or whatever will have 7,000,000, you know what I'm saying, likes,
Yeah.
but
And
but you're go ahead.
no, yeah. And with that, um, no one wants to no one wants to see the ugly mental health side of the spectrum. They want to see the girl freaking out and like, oh, poor girl, or the little boy that got the Xbox One S. Well, the downgrade instead of the One S, and he's flipping out and blah blah blah, and everyone's like, oh, that video is going viral. You read the comments, it's like, oh man, I feel for that kid, blah blah blah. And then, like you said, it takes a super ugly, and I'm not saying ugly in like a negative way.
Mhm.
but a super ugly video of that veteran in the parking lot, and he's crying, and he's just like, and that's what society needs to see more often, because in the era of TikTok and Reels and all that stuff of if you do pranks, you get 1 million views, or if you eat a bowl of the hottest ramen, you get 1 million views. But like, I get on TikTok and I talk about mental health and I get like 5 views.
Yeah, no
But
one gives a shit.
I repost something that's kind of like lighthearted and all that stuff and whatever, and it goes viral. And I'm just like, all right, but I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to sell out. Like, people need to hear the ugly and depressing side of depression or mental health
Yeah,
as a whole.
absolutely. Because I don't want the, and I think if you go with this path, with this purpose, you gotta be able to be dark with it. You
Oh
have
yeah,
to be accustomed to it, like, you get it. Like, you get it. Like, I understand it, but, like, I'm gonna show you the darkness. Like, when I do videos, I want people to feel it because I want you to actually call somebody.
yep,
You know what I mean? I wanna drive some kinda action to where I don't want your comment. I don't want, "Oh, thank you for your service," or you know what I mean? No, I want you to be like, "You know what? This is happening every day, but yeah, it's happening 10 times more that you any kind of situation you're gonna hear different numbers." I don't think we know any real numbers about anything.
nope,
To be honest, I don't think not even veteran suicide. I think the COVID, any number we get. And, they come out my man Dave, 22 Mohawks, he told me, September they come out with the FY, suicide list,
yeah,
but when you have to have an engineer degree from NASA to be able to read it because it doesn't tell you anything.
yeah,
It tells you race, it tells you age. I wanna know prescriptions. I wanna know, you know what I mean? I wanna know how. I wanna
yeah.
know, where how can we intervene? A pie graph's not gonna do it for me.
No, absolutely not. And that was like one of the frustrating parts about this past semester, because I'm trying to look for that data, and it's just like, oh, males between the age of 25 and 45 has this percent of blah 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 and
Mhm.
whatever. And I finally got a good piece of data, and I had to like do a little bit of monkey math to like make it make sense. Um, but even like deep diving into veteran suicide, they say 22 a day, but the VA and DoD doesn't account for ODs. They don't count that as suicide, and you and I both know that, yeah, there's veterans out there that OD on purpose.
I th and I think I think they won't just like everything we keep finding out, everything's new and fun, but I think because they get it from the government. Like, the VA gives you meds. You OD on those meds, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
if they
no,
OD'd
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
I think that's the 3 that's the trick. They're not gonna ever point that finger back, and they're never not gonna do I why is it every person that teaches the TAPS classes, right? The SEPS classes, every person that you've ever talked to that went to one said, "When I went to it, it was garbage. We didn't learn nothing." You and me just went to one within the past couple of years, and
It
y
was
you
garbage.
elevator speech, we resumes, and I feel bad. I'm looking at these kids, like the young guys, they only did their 4 years, they're getting out. And I'm sitting next to this, lieutenant colonel, this colonel on this army base doing it, and I'm like they're like, "I'm only applying for $150,000 and above job." And they're telling these guys like, "Yeah, your application is gonna be a little different. You're gonna
Yeah.
wanna go to this website." And I'm sitting here like, "You want me to do an elevator speech right now? I could do it right now to everybody." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that but when you that's just essays and elevator speeches and resumes, but that's no life stuff. That's not gonna help you. You get 1 day of documenting, your final physical. there's nothing there. That realization that, "You know what, I think I should talk to somebody," happens after you're out.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. And like, um, going back to my nonprofit a little bit, one initiative that we have is the education piece for service members and brand new veterans specifically, because we can't get all the service members, right? But the brand new veterans that are still trying to navigate everything, I have someone that's kind enough to volunteer to write review resumes and all that stuff. And for anyone that knows about professional resume writers, that's $400 a pop. This person's going to do it for free. I have someone that will volunteer his time to get you the VA rating that you deserve. You know, he's got years of experience to where he'll be like, this word needs to be here. You need to do this. You need to show this. Instead of what we got was, all right, go fill out a 60. Oh wow, 2807. Like
You always
like
said
the 2807 doesn't
6105.
have everything that I have.
Yeah, and ain't that the trip of it? That, like you said, why do people have to find this? Like, why isn't it available? All this money, why don't they have that constantly? They have VA centers set up, right? They even have the small town ones maybe,
Yeah.
but why don't you have that free internet center for the veterans? Why don't you have a whole facility dedicated gym equipment for veterans? Like, and I constantly think about things like when, they got the houses for the veterans, the tiny homes, and you see all that, it's like, I wanna change all this, but I ain't got the means, and no
Yep.
one gives a shit because it's not their problem.
Exactly.
So I think that's also that's a stressor as well because you're like, "You know what? Why don't we do this?" And you know what? Someone probably already tried, and no, it's hard to motivate. You gotta find the people that have to say skin in the game is they had someone that either they lost to suicide, someone that they lost overseas that didn't make it home, and the biggest part that I'm venturing more and more into is, first responders.
No, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, it's like,
I got you.
I made a joke about this. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so the thing is, like, I made a
Yeah, we're
joke
good.
about this when I first started the nonprofit, and even thought about doing a podcast. I'm like, I'm just another dickhead veteran with a podcast. You know, I'm gonna be saying the same thing that a million other veterans are trying to push, but no one's listening. Like, what am I going to do to make a difference? What am I going to do to affect change and make that impact? And like you said it, and that's my mentality, and that's why I keep doing it and doing it and doing it, even though I'm not getting the feedback that I need. Is I got skin in the game, right? Lost my brother to
Uh,
suicide, lost a lot of buddies to suicide. um, and like I know I'm speaking from experience that someone that was on the brink of as well a few years back. Like when I lost my brother, I was like, all right, fucking joining you.
mhm.
Like that's how close I was. And hopefully, like all these little influencers and all that stuff say they like, oh, keep posting, keep posting, keep posting. Eventually it's gonna hit. But like I want to be able to connect with people that have the resources to be like, hey, I tell them this is my idea, this is how it's gonna benefit veterans. Can you like sponsor me or something? And I do have someone that's going to be doing grant writing for us as well. So whenever that time comes for you, let me know.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, brother. Dave and Stacy, um, they just had me go help. They working with me to raise a little bread, and I think that's the skin right there. It's being involved in the community, meeting more and more people, and I think veterans are assholes like us, and they don't want to listen to other people's podcasts,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. I think if it the reason I agree with you 100%, no one really gives a shit. Oh, everyone always says, "Keep doing what you're doing." Other people, more people are watching than you know,
Yeah.
and I feel like saying, "Well, who are they to point them out to
Where
me?"
they at?
But I put it to like this, you know what? If one person sees it, that's it. And as
Yeah.
cliche and corny as it sounds, that's all I care about
Yeah.
because I think it's the desensitizing, it's the don't look at me, but this is the occasion. So it's like, pushing more and more back on what's popular and making something that's not popular popular.
No, absolutely. And
Mental health, go ahead.
no, go.
No, so mental health is popular, but veteran suicide's not.
Yeah.
It's and I think that's what bothers me. Every little thing that's important. Ukraine, if we use $1 billion, there could be a big difference. They could build VA hospitals in every town or whatever the case is, or build these places for veterans that have these facilities and they're free. That
Yeah.
they have these like retirement homes, but for veterans that maybe they could go there a couple times a month or a week or and get that therapy and if it's archery, if it's shooting, if it's making pots or pans, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
whatever their vibe is, I think that's where the bread should be. That's where the money should be. That's where but it's not important
Yeah.
until and I think I said that before and it's not important till someone tells you. And then it becomes, well, I wish I would have known. Well, yeah, because you never do know.
Yeah. And I've been like playing with this like thought in my head and all that stuff to kind of like put it into words and everything. It's like um everyone cares about someone after they commit suicide, right?
Mhm.
No one cares. Not, I won't say no one. That's why I'm still playing with it. But
Oh, no, no, I
a
feel
lot
it.
of people, they don't care when that person that they see every day or talk to every day and all that stuff, they know that they're going through some shit, but they care more after the fact than instead of like, oh, hey, let me jump in that fighting hole with you. Cause going back to what I said earlier, like, and you just said it again, mental health is popular, right? But no one wants to see the ugly side. Everyone, like, they want to kind of dip their toes in so they can virtue signal and be like, oh, I'm an advocate for blah 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 blah. But once it gets a little too ugly for them, once their little feelings get hurt and all that stuff, and they start to feel it, they're like, yeah, no, I'm done. I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not going to advocate for this anymore because now it's affecting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think what you're doing is amazing. What things have you done so far, and what things do you got planned right now for your nonprofit?
Sure, appreciate that. So we did a golf tournament in May here in Connecticut. I was able to sponsor a few veterans to play golf for free. We did a virtual 5K for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. If actually for Memorial Day, I'm actually wearing the shirt. The Memorial Day virtual 5K had a huge turnout. You know, a lot of people in Florida, a lot of my buddies I served with over here that are still in the area. Next event, we actually just launched it the other day. It's in my link tree on the Instagram, Facebook, and on the website. It's going to be the suicide awareness. It's 22 miles for the 22. And those 22 miles, you have the entire month of September to get it done. You can run, walk, crawl, hike, bike, swim, whatever, get the 22 miles in for those 22. Um, and, all the proceeds will go to getting more events set up for veterans, more retreats and everything like that. Because once spring hits of 2024, we'll be doing, well, right now we're working on it, but we'll be doing a bi-weekly retreat to where you can get out in nature, hike, fish, do a little like campfire therapy if the weather's agreeing with us and stuff like that. So that's all future planning for us as well.
That sounds awesome. I'll be honest, that sounds like, something that people can relate to and it doesn't seem too challenging or difficult or too populated, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
I go ahead.
Yeah, and the like my end goal for the nonprofit is to get a compound, right? To get a huge plot of land, get a bunch of tiny homes and all that stuff. Um, super big picture is get like a equine therapy situation set up on on the compound. But I vetted a lot of my guys, a lot of the grunts that I served with, and all that stuff. I'm like, when were you the happiest in the Marine Corps? And 90% of them are like, when I was out in the field, miserable as hell with my boys, getting pissed on, getting rained on, tired as hell. I was like, you know what? What if I was to recreate that, like campfire therapy? We're up at night out in nature, watching the stars if you're into that stuff. And there's a tree line right there, you can go scream at it if you need to, just get like decompress. So that's big goals for the nonprofit.
No, I think that's awesome because I think that actually is something that could help. You know what I mean? Help somebody and help them have that break. I think
Yeah,
once you're able to exhale, because a lot of times I feel isolation's good because it becomes natural. You know what I mean?
yeah,
We it's easy, but once you get out of it and I have bad anxiety when I go around people I've never met or I don't know, or I do know that, like, the conversation is waiting for me to say something. I
yeah,
become extremely uncomfortable, but it never happens with veterans. It never happens with people that served because I there's just that unique, I don't know, I was in the Marine Corps and you wasn't idea, you know what I mean?
oh yeah, yeah,
It becomes just so natural and like you could like you was like you said, back when you served and there was times that you remember vividly because they were the best times, but like you said, they were the worst circumstances.
yeah,
And I think that's the best time because I say it over and over again, veterans are the only people that can say veterans because you were there with them or you get it or you went through something similar or worse, but you get it. And
yeah,
you could say enough, but not too much. And it could be stress-free without judgment, but that's a select few. You have to have your select few, your little squad
no,
that, that,
absolutely.
and I think that allows you to become more comfortable.
Yeah, and with like only veterans will say veterans. To add to that, it's veterans need to understand that, and they need to be more open, because I not saying that I'm a fucking war hero or anything like that, but just because of what I have on my chest. um Little story, one of my recruiters, he's got like all the NAMs and NAVCOMs and all that stuff and whatever, squared away Marine, meritoriously promoted, blah blah blah, this and that, whatever. And we're at the ball and he's just like staring at me. I was like, you good? He's like, yeah, yeah, I just get starstruck when I see the medals and stuff. I was like, what? Like, why? He's like, well, I was like, no, nothing, dude. Like, you have two medals on your chest that said that you were the shit. You were number one in your unit. You got 1,000 Marines from California to Afghanistan. I had to get 20 something. Like, I had to make sure that they got on the plane, ate, got off the plane, and that's it. That was my responsibility. You got 1,000 freaking Marines there, man. Like, I'm starstruck by you. Like, because I went to his office and all that stuff, creeped on the award cert and all that. I'm reading it, I'm like, holy crap, man. Like, that's amazing. And he was like 19.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, like, veterans need to understand that we're the only ones that can save each other, but we need to put all that shit aside. We need to, if at the bare minimum, bare bones, like, we're all veterans, that's it.
Yeah, I think because I think you leave with that little bullshit mentality. You leave with it and you try to hold on to it.
Yeah.
You can't walk around calling everyone a fucking pogue. It won't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
It's not
exactly.
gonna work.
Yeah. Or like
Well,
the whole reserve thing. Like one of my best friends in the Marine Corps, he is a reservist. And every once in a while, like we'll banter back and forth and all that stuff. And the one thing that gets him is I call him a weekend warrior.
that's it. That's checkmate.
And he's like, "Oh, well, I have more time on active duty and blah blah." I was like, "All right, whatever." Like, but yeah,
But I think that's the good therapy because it's those conversations that everything that's happening right now just disappears.
hmm
And I think for me, that's the best way I'm able to when I'm able to do this or talk with people I know. It's just a more relaxing environment, and there's no guard. You know what I
no,
mean?
yeah,
There's no worry, there's no concern. It's just like, you know what? This is what I remember without all the bullshit.
no, absolutely. It's just like bare bones, like keep it simple, stupid, right?
Mhm.
When it comes to conversations and all that stuff, like don't have an agenda. Just there's a quote I heard the other day. Um, it's like who are you gonna call when you win? Think about it for a second. Who are you going to call when you win? And then the speaker goes on and be like, why are you waiting to call him when you win? Why not just call him to have a conversation? Because you obviously think so much of them that when you win, you want them to be the first one to know. Why not call him like, hey, what's up? Like, so like I've been letting that marinate for a little bit and all that stuff, so I can like do my little my post and all that stuff about it. But yeah, I just heard that 2 days ago.
That's good. That's really good. I
Yeah,
like that. Wow, let me think about that. That's really good
yeah,
because a lot you it's weird when you only have that conversation and it's a congratulations conversation or it's a you just got married or you had a kid or you just moved. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
not just that Thursday night conversation. It's not just that how was your weekend? Because I remember Monday was big at work. The hell did you do this weekend? We all work Saturday, so what the hell did you do Sunday? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So, that conversation and those digs, that talking shit, that ganging up on one person or everybody, or it was just, who's this guy? Let's make fun of this guy." The admin
Yeah.
guy came in and he dropped all this. It's something, like, it's something that like you said, well, especially you put Marines in the woods, and I pray for nothing but horrible weather for you when you do it,
Oh,
because
absolutely. I'm all about
because
that.
I
Yeah,
think that's the best time when things go wrong and you just adapt to it and keep it moving.
yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
tell me everything you got planned. You told me tell me about the podcast real quick, and then Imma let you roll out.
So my podcast kind of like on hiatus right now. I'm trying to get a partner to co-host with me. Mostly what we're going to highlight is we've already had a conversation with a retired cop, a paramedic, um, both guys that I served with. I want to have conversations with, you know, individuals from different first responder entities, different service members type stuff. And the whole purpose of it is to like, have open conversations like we're having right now, um,
Mhm.
without having like an agenda, like, oh, point one, point two, point three. But I let them know whenever I invite them, like my buddy Jay, who's also my partner for the nonprofit, he's sober. So it was an hour and a half, and we talked for 45 minutes about sobriety, and hopefully, that made an impact, and someone actually like heard it.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
that's pretty much what we're gonna do for the podcast. Is we're gonna kind of have like it's structured that way: first responder side, service side, and then different mental health issues, and huge push on sobriety and all that stuff. Because I said it a million times and I'll say it again. I was like, and I tell my sober buddies this all the time, like, if everything that you've been through, if you are sober, like, you're stronger than freaking anyone I know. Being able to put down the bottle, put down, stop taking pills and all that stuff, stop doing whatever recreational drugs they're doing.
Oh yeah,
Just yeah, because that's the easy answer, right? Like
mm-hmm.
so, like, yeah, but yeah, that's the basic gist of our podcast and breakdown.
Well, I'm excited for it. Once you come back in the fall and you have things planned, I want to have you come back on, and I want to find out more about it and what you have, because I know you're starting off, and just like me, it's always these great ideas we have, and once it starts panning out, it would be good to celebrate and push that word out.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I definitely
So where
appreciate
can
you.
people
What's
go
up?
ahead?
I definitely appreciate you having me on.
Oh,
Hello.
absolutely. It was
Oh.
a pleasure. So where can people find you and your nonprofit?
So atlasrising.org is our website. Our Instagram is Atlas Rising Initiative, underscores in between the words. Um, and we do have a merch store, Atlas Rising Initiative. Everything's in my link tree on the website and on all my social media platforms.
France, I appreciate you having on. It's been every second counts.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
All right, brother.